Hello everyone, I'm Madam Spider. Welcome to the video. I was going to do a frequently asked questions video, but I realized after I wrote it that I was essentially just repeating what I had said in my channel update video. Like, almost verbatim. I don't really feel like repeating myself, so instead I'm going to talk about the development behind the Chronicles of Lord X and other questions people have had relating to it. There was a lot that went into Chronicles over the year or two it was made in, and I'm more than happy to share the process and what my thoughts on it are. What was your inspiration for Chronicles, and/or how did you come up with it? Believe it or not, Chronicles and the universe it has is based on a roleplay that my friends and I would do to pass the time back in 2021. It was completely improvised with some bits of guided events, and it all came together to make one amazing story. Unfortunately, that made the storyline kind of chaotic as we got further and further into the series, and I couldn't find a way to mellow it out without changing some of the events entirely. It is also kind of dated because the initial cast was based on the Sonic.exe V2 cast, before all the other popular EXEs were made or brought to light. It also lived through the time where Revy was wrongfully cancelled, which is why Faker and Black Sun didn't really show up. Regardless, the whole thing was a passion project from beginning to end. I wanted to share the story with others because I thought it was really inspiring and would introduce a new medium into the Sonic.exe community. I understand it's not perfect because of its nature, but in the end, it stands as a testament to my friends and my favorite niche on the internet. What was the hardest part of making Chronicles? The hardest part was finding musicians that actually did their job. I got a number of people who just sat in the server and didn't do anything. Finding voice actors was also one hell of a chore, and I'm gonna have to do it again in the future. Oh joy. Dealing with inactivity was also a pain in the butt. I had several people cycle through the project purely because they just weren't doing anything or weren't communicating with me. I have a pretty awesome team with me now though, so hopefully it won't be as much of an issue in future projects. Also, shout out to my current team. Like, y'all know who you are. I appreciate you. I hope you know that. Did you like writing or drawing more while making Chronicles? Honestly, I liked both processes equally. Though I do have one regret. I didn't do multiple drafts when I was writing the script. That was a huge mistake on my part, but at least I got it together for Chapter 3. That went through at least 2 drafts before I finally settled on it. Even then, it's still kind of a mess. When/how did you get into Sonic.exe? I actually plan on making a separate video for this. It's quite the story, and I love to share it, so please stay tuned for that. To answer it simply, though, I've been in this fandom for a long time. I probably got into it when I was too young, but honestly, who hasn't nowadays? Why did you make Xenophanes the villain in Chronicles? Xenophanes, as my co-writer Hammock handles him, is Lord X's natural counter. If Lord X was left unchecked and got everything he wanted, he would be a much less polished character than he is now. But why Xenophanes and not another EXE of some kind? Well, that's just how it ended up being. We perceived Xenophanes as being the best, since he, in our universe, is the original Sonic.exe. Since Lord X has that inflated ego, it was only natural that he and Xenophanes would butt heads. Think about it though. Was Xenophanes always the villain here? Is there anything you would go back and change about the series? Yes! Oh my god! Yes! There is so much I want to go back and change, as it was probably my greatest mistake of not making multiple drafts of my scripts and storyboards. Chapter 3 was a little bit better at being refined, but there's still a lot that I would want to change. I'll just make a short list of some of the major things I'd change. 1. Redo everything in Chapter 1 and edited script. Rewrite the script in Chapter 2 and remove some of the sound effects. And finally, cut out the VR chat stuff in Chapter 3 and replace it with something else. This is mostly here because not many people like that section, at least from what I heard. Actually, I'm going to take this time to explain the VR chat section in Chapter 3 because that part holds a lot of stuff in it that I don't think people are aware of. Remember when I said that Chronicles is based on roleplays that we did as a friend group? Well, there it is. That's what that section of the story looked like. This story was happening in real time with all of us playing our respective parts. That VR chat section is when the Pasta Night crew was in its prime, and you are witnessing the characters themselves in action as they screwed around in digital space. That is all real, genuine, and definitely several years old at this point. Regardless, I added it in initially in order to give more of a look at what the Pasta Night crew was really like. I didn't want to just say they were a fun group. I wanted you to see how they were as a group. At that point in time, the VR chat recordings were the best way to do that. To wrap things up, here's some clarifying story questions since Lord X didn't feel like tying up loose ends in some places. He's not the most reliable person when it comes to storytelling anyways. Where is Alan? Alan has yet to make his appearance, though I'm not sure how soon it will be. We definitely have plans for him, though. What happened to Rene? Rene, somewhere between Chapter 1 and 2, was relocated to Majin's forest and has resided there ever since. You can see him in the video Lord X and Majin talk about power. Lord X didn't address this in his story because he's not exactly fond of remembering his shortcomings. Where's Xenophanes? After the events of Chapter 3, Xenophanes disappeared. Nobody knows where he went, and Lord X prefers to keep it that way. I would like to do a Xenophanes-focused episode someday, but I'm still talking with his character writer Hammock about it. Where's the Tails doll / Needlestick? That was an oversight on my part. I thought that the Tails doll and Needlestick would have more of a role in future chapters, but I ended up being very wrong. This is why you do multiple drafts of your scripts, everyone. Alright, that's all I could dig up from my comment section and Discord. If you want to join said Discord server and you're above the age of 16, very important detail by the way, then the link is in the description. If you want to see what other projects I'm going to make, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a beat. I try to upload at least once every month. Thanks for sticking around, everyone, and I'll see you later.